Hello and welcome to another episode of the Video Creator Show. My name is Grant, I am here with Augie, and today we are here with the 5 most important rules for massive growth on YouTube. Now, these are pretty broad topics, but I've interviewed so many big YouTubers. These are people who have built channels to over hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Augie and I, of course, have built our own YouTube channels, depending on the channel you're talking about. That's anywhere between 200,000 and almost 1 million subscribers for both of us. So, you know, not to sound braggy or whatever, but point is, we know what we're talking about here. And today we are just looking to share with everybody what the most consistent ideas are when it comes to succeeding on YouTube. Because like we've said, we've been around the block, and there's been lots of interviews that you've probably listened to on this podcast with people who really know what they're doing. So with that, let's jump into it. And now, here we are. Augie, you know, I'm stoked to be talking about this today because this really is a condensed list of the 5 most important things to grow your YouTube channel, or really any social media, but obviously we're mostly focused on YouTube here. So, number 1 is passion. Now, the passion is kind of a buzzword. It gets thrown around a lot. It almost is a little corny at this point. However, passion is important because you want to start a channel on something that you legitimately believe in, that you are fascinated by, or at least interested in. The reason for this is not just because of, you know, the truism of follow your dreams or anything like that. It's a very practical thing, because if you care about something, your mind wanders to it automatically. You are going to consume information about this topic without really having to try. You're not going to have to fight yourself and create all this friction on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis if you are doing something that you are actually passionate about. You know, yesterday I interviewed a guy. His channel is totally based on trains. And this guy is all about trains. He has been passionate about trains, train wrecks, train stories since he was a kid. He's in his 20s now, and his channel has like over 34 million views, and he's really killing it. Like, and he doesn't, like, he clearly enjoys what he's doing. And like the whole time I was interviewing him, it was just like, it was obvious how easy it was for him to keep making videos and to keep consuming videos. So again, he over 100,000 subscribers, you know, millions of views, and he really, it's a sign that he's doing it right. His channel name is Thunderbolt 1000 Siren Productions. And yeah, like I just, you know, talking to him really reminded me how important it is to actually care about what you're doing. It makes things easier. So Augie, do you have any like advice on how to find your passion? Like how should people know what they actually care about? I mean, there's like an intuitive side to this, but it also can feel like, I don't know, the world is a little busy. It's kind of hard to know what you really want. How does one know what they really care about?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's the tricky part. Like, how do you know what you're most passionate about? I think for a good majority of people, they should already know that, right? Like, I grew up loving playing basketball. I knew that I was very passionate about basketball. That's definitely number 1 in my book. But not everybody like dives so deep into one specific thing. So I think really like you want to ask yourself, like, what are you willing to wake up at 5 a.m. for and do and work on? You know, like what excites you? Like if you're willing to wake up at 5 a.m. and go and work on some project, that means you're probably pretty passionate about it. Mm-hmm. Now, so that's just one quick test. And like, you know, what's some other thing you find yourself daydreaming about when you're in class or when you're supposed to be doing something, but you know, you're supposed to be, you know, learning this math concept, but instead your mind is going to this other place almost daily. That's probably something that you're passionate about. And it's important. And, you know, I think most of YouTube channels are people creating things that they're passionate about. It is their passion. I think that's what YouTube's all about. I think that's really cool about YouTube, is that it's, you know, some people are strictly doing it for a business move and trying to make some money or whatever. But I would say and on this percentage, probably like 99% of YouTube channels, people are passionate about the topics they're doing, and rightfully so, because this is, you know, not a 1 year plan. This is a 4 to 5 to 6 to maybe even 10-year plan, or even longer, right? So, I mean, if you're doing something, making videos about something that you're not passionate about, you could probably survive for a year. You could probably make 50 to 100 videos and be okay. But once year 4 or 5 comes around, that's when it's really going to kind of test your love. So yeah, I think those are all good things.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, if someone is listening to this and they still feel like they don't know what that passion would be, sometimes you kind of have to live your life and opportunities will come your way, and it'll, you know, you take the opportunity and you kind of get your hands dirty with it, and you might find yourself getting in the flow with it. And there's something about it. It might not even be the subject itself. You know, let's say you get a job working for, you know, a company that, this is a very silly example, but you're making videos for a company that makes paper clips, and you become the paperclip guy. I'm choosing a purposely stupid example here because it almost doesn't matter what it is. What you may find is that you enjoy the process of this, and just learning, like, oh wow, I can really. There's something about making videos in a certain way that really excites me. Sometimes, like, an opportunity is going to come your way, you take it, and you're going to figure out, like, what ignites within you. So it may not even be the topic itself as much as, like, the approach of it, that a certain company or opportunity will show you how that approach works. Because, yeah, they'll kind of put parameters around what you need to do, what they want from you. And then from there, you'll kind of learn things about yourself and your creative process, and learn how you like to make videos and express yourself. You know, this is just coming from a guy with a video production background, and hopefully that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, one thing I wanted to add too is, like, we're talking about, or I was at least talking about, you know, you're passionate about a certain topic. The real winners, I feel like, on YouTube are people that are passionate about, like, creating videos or being creative. Like, those are, like, the people I feel like that have the most longevity in the YouTube space, because, like, for me, like, not so much basketball, but, like, my passion for basketball is definitely not the same as it was, you know, 10 years ago, as far as being a player and whatever. And so people's passions and interests change. But if you just have, like, a passion for connecting with your community, or a passion for creating videos, or being creative and those kind of things, I feel like that will take you the farthest. Like, I think of guys like, I don't know, Casey Neistat or Logan Paul. Like, these guys don't really have a topic that they're really talking about, right? They're just passionate about creating content, basically. And that's what's given these guys such longevity, especially, you know, Casey's back creating videos, but Logan Paul, you know, like, I think that guy was born to be a content creator. And no matter what it is, now he's like more of a podcaster with the Impulsive Show, but he's definitely passionate about doing that.
Mm-hmm. Right. I like your example a little better than my paperclip example, though I think this all
same
highlights
idea.
That. Yeah, it's the same idea. Like, it doesn't even have to be a specific thing that you're passionate about. It's just your process of expressing yourself is what interests you. So that is passion. That is rule number 1. Rule number 2 is consistency. So this, again, like, I tend, when I'm interviewing people, a question I love to ask is, like, what's your golden rule for succeeding on YouTube or any endeavor, really? And the biggest one that always comes up is consistency. Be consistent. Like, don't stop. Just keep going. And this means different things for different channels. So again, the train guy I was talking about yesterday, or I was talking to yesterday, Thunderbolt 1000 Siren Productions, he doesn't post that often. It's maybe once a week max. But that's his consistent schedule. You know, he's not like Casey Neistat or Logan Paul, where he's posting every day. Or this is he's kind of found his rhythm, and he's found what works for him, and he hits that consistently. Then you have channels like, Philosophy Tube, where she posts like maybe once a month, if even, but she's always working on a new thing. She's always got a new topic it's going to get out at some point. And I think there's like a relentlessness to that, even though she doesn't post that often, maybe once a month again. So really just keep going, like find how long it takes you to make a video and just sort of stick to that schedule. So if you have very simple videos or you have a big team, you might be able to post a lot. It could be every day. It could be a couple times a week. Even once a week is quite a lot. That's still 4 videos a month. So it's really about finding your own rhythm. So yeah, that's what consistency means to me. It's kind of what I've understood it to mean after talking to a lot of people. Anything I'm missing here?
Well, I think the question is kind of arising like, okay, well, what are some tips or how do you stay consistent? So we've talked about these before, but some tips when it comes to YouTube is you don't want to have to tear down and rebuild your studio every time you go to make a video, right? So if you want to be consistent, you want to kind of be able to just hit record on the camera, have it all set up and do your thing. So a lot of little tips like that will help you become consistent. Also, maybe blocking out a certain day of the week where you record every time. I remember I was speaking to somebody one time and I said, hey, she's like, oh, when can we meet for a call? And I was like, how about Monday? And she was like, no, I can't do Monday. I don't do any meetings on Monday. I don't do anything but record YouTube videos. I don't even script. I don't come up with topics. All I do is record. I do all my scripting, everything else for YouTube on other days, but on Mondays, I'm sitting down, I'm hitting record as much as I can for 8 hours that day. That's my work day. And for her, it allows her to upload multiple videos a week, and it just helps her stay consistent. So those kind of tips I think are helpful. Also, too, just know that you got to hit record. You got to hit record. It's like people talk about, okay, I'm going to post 1 time a week. It's like, okay, you're going to post 1 time a week. When are you going to record? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I'm just going to post 1 time a week. It's like, well, you got to literally hit record. And at VidChops, right, we're a video editing service. So people cancel all the time. And we're like, were you dissatisfied with the editing? What's the problem? And they're like, I'm just not recording any videos, man. I'm like, you gotta record, man. If you want to make it on, if you want to, you want to make it, you're investing, a lot of money because it's not cheap. And then you're just burning that money by not sitting in front of the camera. And I get it because I myself have that creative block, that mental block, but that's something that if you want to be a YouTuber, you got to get over. And to be consistent, you got to hit record. I want to remind you that today's episode is brought to you by vidchops.com, which is a flat rate video editing service that allows you to take the burden of editing totally off your hands so that you can focus on more important things in your business. So go ahead, check out vidchops.com if you want to add an expert video editor to your team in just a few clicks. That's vidchops.com. And now back to today's episode.
Yeah, you got to hit record. And then the sort of deeper layer to this too is why do people fear hitting record? Like, what is getting in the way exactly? It could be a lot of things, but generally speaking, it's a lack of confidence and maybe some mental turmoil. Maybe it's caused by having too much going on in your life. Maybe it's caused by certain conflicts that you're dealing with in your life with, your relationship or whoever it is. So I think it's really a lesson in kind of getting your mind right, so to speak. Like, what can you do to feel better day to day, moment to moment? The obvious things that get thrown around, exercise, eat well, get as much sleep as you can, get rid of toxic relationships or people in your life. Just things that will help you have a more fulfilling life in general, I think will also help you hit record. If your room is a mess and your life is a mess, like maybe that could be good fuel to make something, but I think it's going to be too hard to be consistent, maybe out of frustration, you'll be able to hit record sometimes, but ultimately, if you're relying on sort of negativity to create your art, so to speak, I think you're not going to be able to be consistent. Like, that's not how it's going to work.
Yeah, I agree. And also, too, stop putting so much pressure on yourself when the camera's recording. It's called editing, you guys. You can edit out your mistakes. And my wife, she started a YouTube channel, a makeup beauty tutorial channel, and I used to help her. Get the camera, hit record on the camera, and sit there and watch. She, made mistakes, and she would stress herself out, and I could see it. She would have so much anxiety, and it's the common, like, you say something, you mess up, blah, 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 blah. You do like one of those, blah, 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 blah. Like when you mess up, and it's like, you don't need to do that. Like, just start over again. Like, it's not a big deal if you mess up. We're just going to cut it out. And the beauty is, like, some people will like hit record, they'll start to talk, and then they'll mess up, and then they'll stop it. And then they'll, hit record again, start over. If they mess up, they'll stop it. Like, no, hit record one time. Let that thing run for 60 minutes. Just let that camera run and just keep making your mistakes. That's just do it all in one clip. And then in the editing process, that's when you as the editor or your editor can remove all those. And I think that's one of the reasons people don't hit record is they put so much pressure on themselves and they start freaking out and they get all this anxiety when it's time to record. And I feel it too. I do feel it too. But you can't do that to yourself. Just understand that making mistakes is okay. I mean, even when we're recording this podcast, sometimes you or I make mistakes, and I can see, like, for me personally, I start to feel the pressure. I feel like maybe you're judging me, but you and I at this point, we know, like, we're going to make mistakes, and it's like so normal. But yeah, that's another thing I would just mention.
Yeah, I love it. It's part of the process. Like, get rid of the pressure as much as possible. Like, and don't put too much pressure on yourself to get rid of the pressure either. It's some counterintuitive. Yeah, just let it flow, baby. Yeah. So that's consistency. I think we made that one pretty clear. So the next one is analytics. Now, this is, it's data. It's what objectively is working, what objectively is not working. So most people probably know YouTube gives you all kinds of data on your videos. The most important ones are audience retention, click-through rate, and watch time. So these three metrics are, like, you can really look at these deeply and see, like, how successful a video is going to be. Even, like, maybe in the first 12 hours, you can kind of tell if it's going to take off or not. So let's kind of go through the list here. So when you're looking at analytics, the first thing I like to look at is click-through rate. So what is click-through rate? That's really just the percentage of people who get shown your video on their feed that actually click it. So, if 100 people see your video on their feed and 10 of them click it, that's a 10% click-through rate. So the main thing that's going to affect your click-through rate, of course, is your thumbnail. So thumbnail design is an art for sure. It's always kind of a battle between how much time do you want to put into this and how much time do you, like, how do you decide when it's done and it's good enough? Because, you can put 3 extra hours into a thumbnail and make it like 1% better, maybe. And it's, it's a matter of getting your process down. But if you notice that your click-through rate is 10%, that's actually really good. If your click-through rate is, I'd say, at or below 4%, you're kind of in the range of this is not a good click-through rate. You should do something else. So obviously title affects this as well. It's not just thumbnail. So you should experiment. You can use, like, the paid version of TubeBuddy or vidIQ to do A/B testing, where you can try multiple thumbnails at once and just kind of see, and it'll give you data on what works. Like, I had a client, I made like 4 different thumbnails for him for a video. And one thumbnail had an 11% click-through rate, and all the other ones had like 4 or less. So, then he just he got rid of all the other thumbnails and just kept that really good one. And the video ended up doing pretty well. So And that's just a way where you can really use analytics. So again, TubeBuddy or vidIQ, you can use the paid versions and do A/B testing. You know, pretty easy to look into and get that straight. So yeah, and then the next one, watch time, is pretty straightforward. You know, like minutes watched. The more minutes that get watched on your video, the better. I think the more interesting one is audience retention. So this is obviously a function of minutes watched. It's basically, you know, it's the percentage of your video that got viewed. So, like, Augie, I'll throw this to you. Like, generally, what is a good audience retention for, say, a 10-minute video?
Yeah, that would be about 50%. I think you're shooting for 50% on all videos that are about 10 minutes. That'll get you 5 minutes of watch time. And really, we discussed this before. In order to get to that 50%, you really want to watch either the first 30 seconds, first minute. You kind of want to have like 2 markers on your video. Like, okay, so what's the average view duration or percentage viewed, whatever, 50%. Okay, and how many people were watching after 60 seconds, or what percentage of people? And you want that number to be high too. And those are kind of the 2 metrics when you're talking about your audience retention. And you can use that data, right, to go and make changes to your video. If your videos are the same kind of scripted way every time, where you have a little intro, a little logo stinger, you know, you build a little credibility, and then you get into the content, and you're noticing like, hey, everyone's dropping off right at the logo intro, or everyone's dropping off when I start talking about, my name is Augie Johnson, I'm the founder of it, you know, where I try to build credibility. If people are dropping off, just get rid of that. You know, go Mr. Beast style and start your video. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 tips on how to get 100,000 views in 30 days using this secret method that I haven't shown anybody. You know, all right, step number 1, you know, that would be a good hook. That would be, and then right into the content. Step number 1, no logo, no, my name is this, all that kind of stuff. I personally feel like that's the way you need to do it these days, because I think back in the day or just years ago, you could get away with, you know, building the authority, doing the intro, all that kind of stuff. But nowadays it's so competitive. I feel like if you're going to like ramble on at the beginning, other people are not. And therefore their video will beat your video when they go head to head in the algorithm. So that's kind of my advice, is just get right into the hook them, get right into the content, and hopefully that'll help your average view duration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. And to go deeper into that, like you can compare and contrast what is working. So obviously if something isn't working at all, like you're just always noticing a massive dip, you just get rid of it, pretty simple. But sometimes it's maybe not that clear. So one thing you can do is go into your audience retention of several videos and just kind of look at what's happening in the first 30 seconds. So it'll show you that graph, and you'll probably notice a big dip in the first 30 seconds. Like that's just sort of the nature of things. But how big is that dip? Do some videos have a bigger dip than others? You know, if you have a 40% dip in one video in the first you know, the first 30 seconds. So that means 40% of people are clicking off your video in the first 30 seconds. Well, what did you do in that intro? Were you kind of rambling? Were you not getting to the point? Were you trying to be funny, but you weren't that funny? Then, you know, look at other videos. There might be other ones where you did something different and it worked. Like now only 20% of people are clicking off in the first 30 seconds. Just try to emulate what you did there and sort of copy paste that onto other videos. And, you know, you don't want to be too robotic about it, but you really can look at data and just see, okay, what is working, what is not, and you can be more objective about it. And the only asterisk here is you do want to be careful. Like, you don't want to be too calculated with your content, in my opinion. I tend to be more on the artistic side of things, on the creative side of things. If you're someone who's maybe more business-minded, this could be less of an issue for you. But like, basically, you want to pay attention to what is working and what's not, but it may not be as simple as just do the thing that's working all the time. It could mean the thing that's not working, you need to tweak it more. You know, if you're trying to be funny, but people don't think you're funny, maybe, you know, try going to open mics, do stand-up comedy, get more funny. Like lean into it more, but change something. Like, so you really have two options here. You can lean into what isn't working by changing it and doing it differently, or you can figure out what's working and just do that more often. So these are kind of two things I always try to keep in mind when looking at my analytics.
Yeah, I think the point you're kind of making too is like, don't overthink it, and like, don't let yourself look at your analytics, get all these ideas, get it all, kind of confuse yourself in a way to where you don't make any more videos because you're like, oh no, I can't say that because that's when my average view duration drops off, or that's when my audience retention drops off. So I need to like rethink this whole video. I'm not going to publish this video. You know, like it's okay. Like, just the main thing is that you're publishing videos. Don't let some analytics stop you from hitting publish. Don't let, I don't know, what we say in this podcast stop you from hitting publish, right? Like, you gotta publish videos. That's kind of number one. It's kind of like, if you want to lose weight, you gotta show up to the gym, you know, like, or you gotta change your diet. You can't just do the same thing. But with that said, I think what you said about like being funny and like those kind of things, that's where it's at. Like, if you're creating just talking head videos, like, how can your commentary be like inspirational, funny, or some other way to like evoke emotion? Because that's how you're going to win. You're not going to win by sitting in front of the camera and saying, well, the way that you make gasoline is you take this and then you do this, you know, like, because so many people on YouTube are giving out information, right? Tips, tricks, or just like they're experts in some field and they're giving you information, but it's like so dry. You've got to like put personality, right? That's the word. You got to put your personality in. Maybe you're not funny, but that's okay. But your personality has got to be able to show through in order for people to kind of connect with you and for you to start to build that community. Because there's a million people probably talking about X, Y, Z on there. But what makes you stand out is that you're you. And so other people might connect with you over someone else who might have, you know, way more subscribers or whatever because of your personality. So just keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. So that's analytics, kind of the balance of being objective with like what you subjectively want. It's a blurry line, but I think we've done a good job here of sort of highlighting how to walk that line. So the next one, number 4, is delegate. So delegating is really important. It's not something you may do in the beginning. So when you first start a YouTube channel, there's a good chance that you're kind of doing everything. You're wearing all the hats. You are in front of the camera. You are doing writing if there's writing involved. You're doing the editing. You're making the thumbnails. You're doing the SEO. You're kind of doing everything. And that's totally fine. That's normal. I would even argue that's a good thing because eventually, if what you're doing is working, you're going to start thinking, could I hire people to do certain things? Now, not everybody likes to delegate. Casey Neistat is a great example. He's said in many interviews, every time he tries to work with other people, it ends up taking twice as long. Now, I think he's sort of a special case. It's not unheard of. I've heard other people talk about this. I think Nerd Writer said that he doesn't really like to hire editors. But also, it depends, right? Especially, think of it this way. I think they both like editing. There's something about it that they enjoy. They like being a part of the whole process. And I don't think, like, at least for them, there's no ego involved with that. So the Nerd Writer interview that I'm referencing is kind of old. This could have changed now, but at least for a long time, where he was very successful, he did everything essentially, all his own editing. But basically, like, what are the parts of the process that you don't like doing that if you keep doing them are going to burn you out? these are the things that you want to hire people for. If you can't afford it, then maybe you can think, is there another job I can get to make more money? Is basically you can kind of get creative with it and figure out how you can delegate the things that you don't want to do, because you are going to waste your energy. There's a lot of inefficiencies in doing things that you hate doing for years. It's, I think, healthy to do it for a while, especially it makes you a better manager if you understand all parts of your process. But at some point, you should think about, what can I hire somebody else to do? Is it writing? Do I need a film assistant? Someone to help me set up lighting and record me every time? Do I need an editor? Do I need somebody to post my videos? Like, there's probably some part of the process that you hate or that you don't like that you should just hire somebody else for. So, that's the beginning of delegation. How do you feel about delegating, Augie?
Yeah, I'm a huge supporter of delegation, but I wasn't always that way. Like when I first started on YouTube, I was doing everything, and I'm talking about everything because it wasn't just the YouTube channel, right? It was an Instagram account, a Twitter account, email. It was a back end business. We had products, we had all that kind of stuff. I did everything, customer service. There wasn't a single thing that I outsourced. But as my time became more and more limited, I was basically forced to start delegating. And even when I started VidChops, I was the editor. I was the only editor. And I got up to, I think, 10 or 11 clients. I was doing all the editing. It was a ton of work. And I felt myself, all of a sudden, my time became even more limited because of a job I got. And I was like, okay, I have to delegate this. I'm forced to. And at the time I thought, I don't know if it's even possible, because I was like the one doing the editing. I felt confident. I knew that I was delivering great product every time, great edits. And so I was like, I'm going to shut it down. I can't do this. I'm going to refund everybody, shut it down. I can't, it's not possible to delegate. And then I did have one editor that I was kind of working with as like an assistant editor. And he was like, I can do this, I'll take it over. Let's get this thing going. So that was kind of the first time I delegated, and it worked. Okay. The business started to grow. I was able to put together teams of editors and all that kind of stuff. And once I found the magic in delegating, I did not go back. Became a full-time delegator. It was pretty extreme. Like I even, at one point had a team for my YouTube channel where they would come up with the topic. They would write the script. They were doing everything, the editing, the posting, the thumbnails. I'm talking about A to Z, even coming up with topics. And they would just send me the script, and I would hit record, and that was it. Upload the footage, and then it was all done 100%. And not everyone can do that, but I was in the position at that time to do it, and it worked well. I did like it. But for people that aren't in the position, right, if you can't afford to delegate, we're talking about editing or creating thumbnails and that kind of stuff, another option could be to partner. Right? You can be the talent, right? You can be just the person that hits record, and then your partner is the person that does the thumbnails, the editing, everything else in the whole entire business, right? And you are just the talent. I think for me, that's a fair 50-50 split right there. You are responsible for creating 12 banger videos a month and writing the scripts and coming up with the topics. That's all you got to focus on. And your partner is going to do kind of all the other work. I know Ryan Trahan, the guy who did 30 vlogs in 30 days when he traded a penny and traveled across the US to meet Mr. Beast, he had an editor traveling with him the whole time, and another guy who I don't know what his role was, but Ryan Trahan would vlog all day, give the footage to the editor. He would edit from like 8 to 12 at night. He would publish that video. Ryan would wake up the next morning and start vlogging again, and all he had to worry about was vlogging. So I think that's a good way to do it, some kind of partnership. And if you're at the spot where you're like, okay, I got a little bit of money to hire out, should I hire an editor? Should I hire a thumbnail designer? What should I do? My advice is normally to start with a VA, a virtual assistant. You get a virtual assistant that can handle your email, can handle your posting, because being a YouTuber is not just posting on YouTube, right? You're going to most likely you know, have a following on Instagram. You're going to have a following on TikTok. You're going to be putting content on Twitter, and you're going to need a VA to help you with all that kind of stuff. And your VA can do a lot, and it depends on what kind of VA you get. That VA could be an editor and a thumbnail designer, and can handle your email, and can, you know, do a lot if you have a full-time VA. And I think that's kind of like one of the best ways to start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Kind of getting rid of these miscellaneous tasks, offloading them. Something that it took me a while to learn is how annoying or like mentally taxing it can be to wear so many different hats. Like having to do all these different little things like uploading thumbnails, emails, blah, 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 blah. It kind of takes a lot of space in your mind to switch between all these tasks. So a lot of the power of delegating, it's not just that you have somebody else working for you, it's also that you now have more space in your mind to focus on the things that you want to focus on. You can hone in on the things that you really like to do and to do them is really, really well. Like now you aren't split between so many different things. And this can be really powerful. Like with my channel Treesicle, this is one thing that I think was a big weakness for the channel. So we had a team of 4 people, and you know, I was working with my friends. We're all still friends to this day, but I wasn't really able to delegate with that because of the dynamic between us. Like nobody really wanted to edit. So I sort of, even though I was the host of the channel and kind of the, you know, the creative spearhead most of the time, I ended up getting really bogged down by editing because other people also wanted to write. And, you know, that was just kind of the dynamic, but I wasn't really able to delegate. And I think that was a big weakness for the channel, is I had to wear all these hats, and everybody was all wearing different hats because everybody, like, nobody wanted to edit, but everybody kind of wanted to do a little bit of everything. And it just kind of, that isn't how you should run a business. And it just, like, you don't want that. So if I was able to delegate more, I think I wouldn't have had to take such a long break from Treesicle because I got so burned out. I was just doing too much, and I wasn't able to focus on what I actually wanted to be doing. So that was number 4, delegation. Now, on to number 5. This is kind of an abstract concept, but it is very important to your mindset. That is patience. Patience, patience, patience. Now, we all know what patience is, but what does that mean exactly? So what I mean when I say patience is you don't know how long it's going to take for you to succeed. So you have found something you're passionate about. You have figured out a way to do it consistently. You're looking at your analytics. You are at least looking at delegating on the horizon, or are beginning to do it now, or have already done it. But maybe you're still not seeing what you want to see. You're like, okay, yeah, I'm seeing some growth, but I'm still spending more money than I'm making. I'm not as famous or as wealthy as I want to be yet. What's wrong? The answer could just be you haven't been doing it long enough. You haven't got your process down. You just haven't infiltrated the YouTube system enough to get noticed. You know, I was talking to a fellow YouTube buddy of mine. He always compares starting a channel and having it succeed to starting a fire. So you know, release a bunch of videos. It's like you're building a bunch of wood and you're trying to align it in a certain way. There's kindling, there's big logs. You know, those big logs could be super long videos, and then the kindling could be like maybe shorter videos. But the point is you're starting a fire and you might have everything laid out, but you don't have the spark yet. That spark usually is like a breakthrough video or 2 or 3 that really gets people flooding into your channel. So you have to be patient because you may just not have made that video yet. You know, you're making a ton of good content. You have this big backlog that's building up. But you just haven't, for whatever reason, you haven't had that video that really took off, that feeds into all your other videos. You also, yeah, you may not understand your process as well as you think you do. Maybe you're still kind of working on yourself and you haven't quite reached your full potential yet. So patience, patience, patience. Like I actually have an interesting story about this. So, one of the guys I work with and live with, his name is Tyler. He helped us start Treesicle and Bonsai Pop with me. He also works with clients now. And he had this really good opportunity come to him where this couple wanted to start a food channel. Like they, I guess, had a background in like food, being a food critic, and they were retired and they had a lot of money, and they came to him and they were like, we really want to work with you. We saw your profile a year ago and we were worried you wouldn't have time to work with us, and now we're so excited and let's hit this hard, and we love you, Tyler. Let's do this. He was like, great. So he draws up a plan and he kind of tells them what he wants to do for them, how much it's going to cost, and they say, great, this is all great. And then they come to him like a few days later and they say, hey, actually, we think we're going to go with somebody else. Even though they like kind of let him on like this. And he's like, whoa, why? What happened? And they decided that they wanted to go with people like somebody else who's told them, hey, in 6 months, you'll be making this amount of money and you will be getting this many views. And Tyler was like, what? And the reason why this is so silly is these people just made up numbers. Like whoever these other YouTube professionals, so-called professionals were, they just made up numbers. They're like, hey, you're going to be making this much money in this amount of time. And that they just, they kind of hijacked these people's desire for quick success, for predictable success. And you can't really predict this. And keep in mind, these people hadn't even made any videos yet.
Right.
Like somebody, like they don't even know what these videos are going to look like. And this person comes to them and has the audacity to say, oh yeah, in 6 months, you'll be making this much. Like you don't know what this even is. Like, so it's, I think that's not going to go well for them. Like, I truly believe, and it's not just because he's my friend, I think they messed up by hiring whoever that was instead of Tyler. And it's just, they weren't patient. And by the way, these people kind of had a history of like hiring people who took their money and then didn't do anything. And they're kind of like repeating the cycle, in my opinion here. So be patient, be careful. There's scammers out there. And also you can end up frustrating yourself by expecting too much too quickly. So that's what I have to say so far about patience. Augie, what does patience mean to you?
Yeah, I think anytime you're creating content online, you need to be patient. It's a long-term play, not short-term. I listen to a podcast called Tropical MBA, and they always talk about the rule of 1,000 days. So if you can work on your YouTube channel for 1,000 days straight, you should start to see some success. And it's not just for YouTube. They use that rule for anything, online businesses or whatever you're doing. 1,000 days consistently working on your craft, and you will start to see a change. And that's like 3 years, right? That's like 3 years of your life right there. Mm-hmm. So it's not a short amount of time, but I think that's about right for YouTube. I think if you're starting from zero, year one is just going to be a grind. Like you're just hoping to get to 1,000 subscribers, honestly, in the first year, if you're starting from zero, especially if you have no background knowledge and you don't know all the things that we talk about on this podcast, then you're kind of fighting an uphill battle. You got a lot of learning curves, right? You got to learn graphic design, video editing, scripting, how to talk on camera, the algorithm, I don't know, social media, I don't know, all these different things. So you do have to be patient. Now, with that said, if you are eager enough to make it happen, then you can do it. But you can't just post videos on YouTube. That's like step one. If you want to speed up the process of growth, then you need to get out there and put yourself out there. You need to go to conferences and meet people. Like, it can't just be you in your bedroom making videos. Like, if you want to speed up your growth, you get out there, you put yourself out there, you collaborate, you DM people, you know, get a part of the community online. Like, where are your viewers, your dream viewers? Where are they hanging out online? What forums are they in? What Facebook groups? Like, go there and deliver value, right? Help them. Because the more people you help, the more people are going to click on your profile, click on your YouTube link in bio or whatever that is, and that will help you. So don't rely 100% on the YouTube algorithm and on posting videos. Get out there and put in the work yourself in other ways. That's one thing I would say. But yeah, I mean, if you're posting one video a week, and you're looking for results, like, it's not enough. I mean, that is kind of like what I would say is the minimum release schedule that you want to be on, is like, you know, one video a week. But I know I can just remember back Christopher London, a YouTuber who, you know, told his dad, I'm quitting college to be a full-time YouTuber. And the dad asked him, you know, okay, like, I'll consider like accepting this, but like, tell me, like, what kind of work are you putting in? He's like, I'm posting a video every week, Dad. And the dad was like, that is unacceptable. No, you're not quitting college. And Christopher Leonard was like, okay, I'm going to post every day. And that's what he started to do. And his growth just went whoop right up. So you get out what you put in, just like everything in life. So, but with that said, I hear most people talking that the first 1,000 is going to be the hardest. Getting to 100,000 is going to be hard. And then from there, it can get easier, right? You can start to see more growth exponentially. So yeah, that's all I have to say about patience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I liked that point about exponential growth. And yeah, I don't want to lead people on here necessarily, but that is one thing about social media in general, is just because things look like they're barely working right now, you could just, again, you're starting a fire here. So it could just be you're a few videos away from that kind of exponential explosion. And that's definitely something I saw with Treesicle. You know, the first 3-4 months we were making, you know, we were just playing video games and doing commentary over them, and nobody cared. And then we made a totally new type of video that was scripted, and, you know, I did the voiceover and editing, and it was just a more complex video. And that video has over 2 million views now. And then we kept making videos like that. And that was kind of the exponential explosion. You know, I think we hit 10,000 subscribers in like the first 6 months, and then 100,000 less than a year later. It's just like that's what can happen, is sometimes you kind of, you know, we were consistently making these Let's Play videos of just commentating over video games. And then, I don't know, there's something about putting in a lot of work and not getting results that makes you think, what can I do differently? Whereas if you're not putting in the work, you're not going to think about what you can do differently as much, because honestly, it's not inconveniencing you that much. You can you have the luxury of just like, yeah, I'll just make, you know, one Let's Play video a week. That's fine. That's fine. But if you, you know, if you're putting in all this work and not getting enough out of it, you're going to be like, well, what can I do? And that can inspire you to actually do something that you normally would not have done. So, and yeah, that's a good recipe for patience, and kind of, you never know when that exponential growth is going to hit you.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think it's pretty common. Like, we're not just talking about, you know, sometimes people see exponential growth. Like, it happens pretty often. And it, like you said, it's that one video, it's that snowball effect. You got to get one good video, and then in the next few videos, you got to follow up with that. Because kind of like what I've seen is, you'll have like this baseline of views, right? So you'll have like, let's just say you're getting 1,000 views a day, right? That's your baseline. And then you have a good video, it pops off, boom. And, you know, for the next few weeks, that video is doing incredible. You're getting, let's say, 10,000 views a day, 10,000 views a day. And then let's say that video kind of dies off and drops back down, and your baseline will not drop down to 1,000 views a day. It'll drop down to like 2,000 views a day, right? And they're like, wow, now and then you have another one that takes you way up, boom. And then, okay, eventually it dies off, whatever, it'll drop down. Now you're like at 3,000 or 4,000 views a day, right? And so you're able to kind of hit a snowball effect to where you can build a channel that gets pretty big pretty quickly if you're able to create those kind of banger videos. And if you're wondering what I mean by that, I'm talking about videos that get high click-through rate, that get people watching, you know, a lot longer than they normally would on your channel. And if you kind of hit those two things right there in a video, then it's going to succeed. The algorithm will promote it, and then you can really help the overall health of your channel by increasing that baseline.
Definitely. I that is so true. The baseline is kind of an interesting concept. So we talk a lot about Casey Neistat, but then there's his brother Van Neistat. So Casey basically helped his brother get on YouTube. And he, you know, made a video and was like, hey, my brother's making a YouTube channel. Check it out, everybody. And lo and behold, people checked him out. He had this initial explosion of views, but then it went down to this baseline. You know, I don't know exactly what his baseline was, but it was way lower than like the initial explosion. And he just kept making videos, and, you know, some videos would kind of blow up and then go back down. And then his baseline was a little bit higher. And it just kind of it's like a stepwise function. If you remember those from, you know, from math class in high school, you know, it levels off, then goes up, and then levels off, goes up, and it's like a staircase. So you can really track your progress with that concept.
Yeah, and you know, like let's say you're getting 1 million views a month, million views a month, million views a month, like your baseline is going to stay up there. You're never going to probably drop down to like 10 views a month. Like if you get to that point, you're going to, as long as you're still producing videos, you should be able to keep that baseline. And I know for me personally, on my Baller Bootcamp basketball training channel, I was able to get my baseline up to where I was getting maybe 400,000 views a month. And I rode that for years, and I plateaued, but it never did drop down until I stopped releasing videos. So just something to keep in mind.
Totally. Well, with that is our list of the 5 most important rules for massive growth. There was a lot of depth in kind of each of the topics, and just to go through them one more time: passion, consistency, analytics, delegate, and patience. If you have these 5 things straight, then you will succeed on YouTube. You will, or any social media platform, but especially YouTube, because you know it's our specialty. It's our bread and butter. YouTube is our bread and butter. We really know what we're talking about here, and it's just, if you do these things, you will succeed. And that's my little pep talk for you.